Welcome to the Accelerated Investor Podcast with Josh Cantwell. If you love entrepreneurship and investing in real estate, then you are in the right place. Josh is the CEO of Freeland Ventures Real Estate Private Equity and has personally invested in well over 500 properties all across the country. He's also made hundreds of private lender loans and owns over 1,000 units of apartments. Josh is an expert at raising private money for deals, and he prides himself on never having had a boss in his entire adult life. Josh and his team also mentor investors and entrepreneurs from all over the world. He doesn't dream about doing deals. He actually does them, and so do his listeners and students. Now sit back, listen, learn, and accelerate your business, your life, and your investing with the Accelerated Investor Podcast.
So hey everybody, welcome back. This is Josh Cantwell. Thanks so much for joining me again on the Accelerated Investor Podcast. And I am in particular excited to be with all of you today to share a story of change, a story of rapid change. And often when I think about where I've been and in my own life, I think about all the change that's happened in my life with my investing strategy and the people that I've met. And I don't often come across somebody who's able to make rapid change in their life happen such a quick, amazing level of change, from good to bad, bad to good, that I meet somebody, I want to talk to them about how they did it. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about change. For those of you who are looking to make a rapid change in your life, in the way that you operate, the way that you speak, in your relationships, in your business, and just the way that you treat yourself, the way you talk to yourself, the way that your self-esteem, the way that you view yourself in the world, you're going to love what we're going to talk about today. And I have to preface this by saying I have a friend of mine. His name is Mike Tucherone, and Mike is probably my friend that I've known the longest. I've known him since 7th or 8th grade, and Mike and I have been friends for a long, long time. And I love Mike's just ridiculous honesty. His ridiculous honesty with himself, his ridiculous honesty with his friends. And Mike carries, in our circle of friends, a ton of weight because he's just willing to call people out about when they're being truthful to themselves, truthful with other people. And so years ago, I met our guest. His name is Ryan Niddel. And Ryan, in watching him and his pivots, his changes he's made over the last couple years, reminds me so much of my close friend, Mike Tucherone, that I just had to get Ryan on the line with us today. And so, Ryan, I have a couple more things I want to share about you before we really jump in. But thanks so much for jumping on today. I really appreciate you making some time for us.
Josh, it's truly an honor. I love your energy. I love what you're about. And I couldn't be more grateful to share my message with you and whoever tunes in.
Fantastic. So to give you a little bit of a preface about Ryan, I want to tell you about one of his previous endeavors. Ryan, when he went through this amazing transformation that you're about to hear about, he decided to start his own podcast. He called it 15 Minutes to Freedom. And in very short order, Ryan just opened up his life, opened up and became radically honest in a podcast, just started recording episodes about his life and his relationships and his business, his good, his bad, his ugly, his dumpster fires. And it rapidly went to the top of iTunes. He has accumulated over 4,500 five-star ratings and over 2,900 reviews and ratings for his podcast. Ultimately became the number 3 podcast in the entire ecosystem of iTunes. And Ryan right now is going through another change to start new podcasts, new businesses. And so Ryan, another rapid change in your life. And what we're going to talk today about is Ryan's operating system to create personal power, honesty, and truth in your life. And Ryan, you're becoming an amazing leader to your group of people that you're talking and helping them to become the bigger, better version of themselves. But it wasn't always this way. So let's just talk a little bit more about what's going on today. And tell us, Ryan, about your honest life and what's happening today, what's exciting in your life. What are you working on right now that gets you up and gets you juiced every day?
Yeah, Josh, I mean, that's such a great question. The getting me up and getting me juiced is, my life optimization group, right? So we'll dive into the personal development rabbit hole. I actually call myself, instead of the coach, which I think is an overplayed word, like what does that even mean? I've leaned a lot heavier into the specialist category, where I know across fitness, faith, family, and finance that I can help you dial in the variables of your life that you might not have seen before. So even if we dive really deep, like I love the body side of things, and the whole side note, we'll get into why that is, but the biohacking world and what it means to truly live what I refer to as that optimized life, where what's optimized for you, Josh, and what feels best to you doesn't have to be what feels best to me. But there's some core things that we can all do to have more energy, have more focus, be more productive in our days. I mean, I laughingly say I have no idea how to create more hours in any day. I certainly don't know how to create more days in a week, but I absolutely know how to have you get more done during the hours you want to work. Not have to work, but want to work. I mean, I think all of us would agree that the quote unquote secret to entrepreneurship, why we jump into this, is we want to make more money, work for ourselves, and then ultimately work less time. And somehow we all seem to mess up the third one, right? Like we end up figuring out how to make more money almost in spite of ourselves. And we love working for ourselves and the headache and the stress of employees and payroll, like all the things that come into it. But all of a sudden we start looking and we traded that 40 or 50 hour a week job for a 90 to 100 hour a week commitment. And it's passion driven, right? So we're all super excited about it. But there still comes this quality of life that in my belief system, has to be balanced, right? When we don't pour energy into ourselves first, right? We want to help all those people around us, especially as entrepreneurs, right? We have employees, we want to give. We might even donate our time, right, to nonprofits. But at some point, that water glass that we're pouring into everybody else's glass is bone dry. And that's typically where during our entrepreneurial journey, we just completely burn out. And most men specifically, right, we end up burning our entire life to the ground. Like, you end up drinking, you end up sedating away with potentially drugs, you end up considering infidelity or go down the infidelity rabbit hole, right? And there's certainly no judgment passed here, but you almost can't help it because we're problem solvers by nature, right? To me, if you're in this, like you like seeing complex things and making them simple and solving the variables, like that's what gets our juices going. But we can't help but do that to our own lives consistently, right? When things get streamlined and things seem simple, we end up making them even more complicated from that empty glass. Then you look back and there's just a pile of debris sitting around, which was exactly what happened in my life, right? Like this is not coming from some hypothetical place of, oh, I think this is how it works, right? I was incredibly fortunate to meet you through a friend of ours, Vinny Fisher. Right. I mean, incredible man. Him and Mark Jenny, the two guys changed my life and where I was going completely. Had a mechanical engineering background, of all things sold high-end luxury cars, and then jumped into affiliate marketing, right? Direct response marketing, web hosting through Vinny and Mark's company at that point. It was incredible because all of a sudden I started figuring out how the internet works. And I went from making what would have been, in my opinion, good money, right? $250,000 a year running car dealerships. Like that's good money to me. To now all of a sudden working in this crazy internet world, making 40, 50, 70 grand a month and feeling like I'm not even doing anything, right? It's no longer hard work. It's like talking on the phone with a bunch of friends and seeing how things work online and making sure conversions are optimized. And it's like, it literally felt like we somehow had this magic cash printing machine stuffed away in the back closet.
Right.
And you know all the stories, right? We were enjoying life at the maximum capacity that I had ever enjoyed it before, right? And when I say that, there's a very specific memory I have where I'm in New York City for one of the first times. We're at a big affiliate summit. Like there's a conference that goes on there every year. It's in August all the time. And this is my first time being around this level of what feels like affluence, right? And I say feels like because there's a difference between true affluence and wealth and the appearance of affluence and wealth. And so we're there and we end up having a party or we're a part of a get together, whatever you want to say. And by the time the dust settles, we spent more in an evening than I made my first year out of college. Right? It was a north of $50,000 bar tab with us just entertaining people. And it wasn't like we were successful enough that it didn't even like register that was something that was crazy. It was just like, yeah, that was a good night, right? We all had a good time. And then as life would have it and things would progress forward, I was incredibly fortunate that Vinny and Mark trusted me to end up taking over the company. Now, as a 27, 28-year-old, I'll say young man, I can't go quite kid, but really in my psyche and intellectual capacity. I was still a little bit of a child. It was a completely ego-driven model for me, right? I'm like, all right, I made it now. I'm running this company that's doing $25 or $30 million a year in revenue. I'm king of the hill, right? Mark and Vinny are now going out to build a new enterprise, and they're brilliant in their own capacity, right? They are, when they get together and they put their mind to something, it's going to succeed. And here I am in this hosting world trying to figure out how to run a company, and so egotistical that I'm pushing everybody away that would possibly give me information. Like, again, don't want to pat him on the back too much, but like Vinny is an accomplished lawyer with plenty of success. Like, he was willing to mentor me, and I'm like, no, you go, I got this.
Right.
And I had it until I didn't, right? It's kind of like at that point I was in the land of denial, right? It's not just a river in Africa, right? I was knee deep in denial. Like, oh, we'll figure it out. It'll shake, it'll go left and right. And, we ended up getting rid of the company, selling it off, whatever, on the backside of just consistently lower revenue. Vinny had to come back in and parcel and part out the company and get rid of it. Like, I wasn't, I'll say, capable of doing things the right way. I might have been capable, but was certainly too pig-headed to ever listen.
Right.
And so, okay, I'm 29 now. I feel like I've still made good money. I've lived a great life. I've got access to all this stuff. I know I can, in my mind, print money. So why wouldn't I go start a high-risk merchant processing business? That seems logical, right?
Seems logical. Why not? Let's just try it.
Of course, I got $500,000 sitting around at 29. Like, I'm the man still, right? Like, I got this. Start the high-risk merchant processing company, and Josh, it worked really well until the moment that it didn't. And the moment that it didn't was about 12 months in, where I'm writing a $300,000 check to shut down the business, plus the operating expenses of the entire year, plus the part that we haven't touched base on yet, which I can't see me skipping over.
Right.
Is during this ego-driven time in life and my conflict avoidance, right? I had two different things that were going on. I had stacked up 4 women that all thought I was their one and only, right? So I'm dating 4 different women. Longest one was 3.5 years. Shortest one was 7 months. Different parts of Ohio, different commute. Like, none of them knew each other. Like, I was the ultimate liar, right? Like, I would have known the truth if it would have slapped me in the face. It was really how it was. And so any money that I was making, I was buying away my sorrow, right? Whether it's buying the women cars or taking them on trips or plastic surgery or whatever the things would be. It's like, okay, money will just mask all this. So I'm burning through cash at a level that is really, really grossly inappropriate how I view life now, right? And so, of course, I remember having to fire my last employee December 22nd, right before Christmas, which is always fun, only to be the week before I come home from the office. My girlfriend at the time, I'll call the main girlfriend, which is so horrible to say out loud, but it's the truth. I come home, she's in our house alone. At this point, we're already living together. And lights are down low, and she says, sit down. Okay, right? And Josh, I don't know if you've ever had the sit-down conversation before as a man. It's never like, I'm so happy you're home, or like, you're the best guy ever. Like, the quiet sit-down is like...
Normally, if she's excited to see you, she runs and jumps into your arms at the door, right? That's the excited to see you moment. It's not the, hey, come sit down on the couch moment. So you know Correct. You're walking into uh-oh scenario. So what happens?
And I'm in a big uh-oh scenario where she says, hey, look, my friends, or where are you at last weekend? Oh, I don't know. I was here, there. I was, whatever the story is I told at that moment. And she goes, no. Try again. And I said, well, I might have forgot something. I mean, I stopped by the mall. I did whatever I did. She goes, yeah, you're close. Keep trying. And I'm like, and she's completely level-headed. Like, it's complete eerily calm. And she said, well, I know you were at the mall, like you said, but you were with this woman doing this thing. My friends saw you and actually followed you around. What is this? At this point, she had just gotten through her divorce, right? She had left her house. I had decided, hey, with classic Ryan style, let's just move in together, right? I'll be the savior as well. Come on, like we'll get a house together. I'll just take care of all of it. Don't worry about it, right? Little does she know that my bank account was dwindling down to a point where when she met me, right, there's rental property, there's multiple cars, there's motorcycles, there's front row tickets to concerts, there's private planes. And in 7 short months, there's literally nothing. Like, it's every penny I have to get together to get this house together. She has no idea. And so she's sharing this with me, and I'm like, yeah, you're right. This is what's happened. And I tell her. And she's like, well, what are you going to do? She goes, I don't know if we're going to be together. We had literally moved in, Josh, maybe 3 weeks prior.
Wow.
She goes, I don't know if I'm going to stay. I don't know what's going to go on here.
And she doesn't know about the others yet. So it's just about the one at the mall.
At that point, the others had been gone, right? When I met her, there were just, it's funny to say this, there were just two. There were only two women.
Right, sure.
Atrocious in its own right, but it's the truth. It's the facts. And so, you know, I literally pull out my phone right in front of her. At that point, I was the guy that had passcodes and facial recognition and thumbprint. I mean, you might as well have needed blood to open my phone, right? There was no chance you were getting in that thing. I take off the passcodes. I take off all the stuff. I pull up the woman's name, which of course, I was the guy that had a different name in my phone for her when I would come home, just in case she called. Just in case.
Right, extra protection.
Extra protection. You're exactly right. I pull it up and I call her. It's on speaker, and you say, hey, you know, look, it's, you know, I address her by her name, and that's to me not all that important. Say, I'm sorry to break this to you, but we're done, right? Like, I have somebody else. I'm living with them. I've been living this, duality of a life in which I haven't been truthful to anybody. I don't know where it's going to end up, but I know it's not going to end up with you. We have to part ways, and after we hang up, there's no more, right? I'm going to block you, delete your number, anything you need to say to me, any questions you need answered, bring it right now.
Get it out now, yeah.
That's it. And of course, she was, very upset with that. Side note, Josh, I mean, let's put it all out there. This woman was 51 years old at that point. I'm a 30-year-old man, and she's 51. So I also had a tremendous amount of mom issues and complexes of things of trying to search for issues that I had never overcome as a young man that I didn't even know I had, right? Like, somewhere deep inside, I'm sure I did, but the reality of life was I didn't really know. And so I'm parting ways with her, and she's yelling and doing all this stuff. I said, look, like, this is just, everything happens for a reason. The way you're handling this, I get it, but I'm just going to call it quits. And so hang up, take the passcode off my phone, delete her phone number, delete her name, block the number. So Lindsay, who's now my wife, right? Like, now she sees it's all on the table. And I said, look, I'm not going to beg you to stay. If you want to leave, like, I can handle what we have here. I said, but there's things I need to work through. And I see that now. She's like, okay, like, let's get through the holidays. Let's not make a rash decision. Like, let's just settle for a second. Like, I get it. I don't like it, but I understand at least what you're sharing with me. So fast forward to maybe 4 or 5 days later, right? It's Christmas. This is all butting up kind of same time period. And Christmas was pretty sparse on my side, right? I'm the guy that's normally like, let's take a crazy trip. Let's
go somewhere. Right? Private jet, buy some nice trip. Let's go together. Let's hang out, have fun. And you're staying home this time.
We are staying home, and there's not a whole lot of gifts under the tree. And I'm already feeling bad about myself, right? This is a self-deprecating story that I'm telling myself, that my worth is only based off of monetary value. And then the man that I wasn't worthy because of the way that I had acted and treated people around me. And so I fall into a pretty, what I would say would be level of depression. Like, business, I have to tell my girlfriend, who's now my wife, right? And we'll get to that, but I have to tell her, look, the business that I've been going to every day since you've known me, I literally shut it down. There's no money left. The rental property that I have, the last one that I have that I haven't sold off, the cash flow from that I'm actually using to fund my life over here. So I'm at least 2 months
paying the mortgage.
So I'm at least 2 months behind on the mortgage.
Going into foreclosure. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. I'm like, oh yeah, the nice diesel pickup truck that I bought right when we got together, right? Traded in a Porsche Panamera and all the fun stuff, right? I'm a car guy.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm probably 2+ months behind on that too. They're probably gonna come grab that any day now.
Holy cow!
And it's just like, here it is, right? It's just here. And for Christmas, I don't remember everything that I got that year, if there was much of anything. She certainly didn't. I didn't quote unquote deserve anything. But I do remember a box set of Tony Robbins training information, right? Whether there were CDs at that point. It wasn't that long ago that there were only CDs, but like, that's how the information was delivered.
Yeah, right.
And a couple of books. And I'm like, all right, like, what do I have to lose? And so started diving into that. And Josh, this was now 5 years ago, give or take.
So So Ryan, before you jump into the Tony Robbins stuff, like, help me understand when you're all of a sudden, because now I know you to be like a radically honest guy. Like when I was interested in doing this interview, and we've talked over the last couple of months, and you're helping people peel back the onion of what they are and being radically honest with themselves so they can optimize the relationship that they have that's maybe mediocre at best, and being radically honest about that relationship to take that to the next level, or radically honest about the way they're treating themselves, both physically and emotionally and mentally. And you have this group of people that you're coaching and mentoring and helping them get to the next level. And all of that really spawns from really this moment, right? This moment of truth for yourself that Lindsay calls you out on. You're recognizing now that you don't have the money that you had projected that you had. You don't have the lifestyle that you projected that you had. You had a business with Vinny and Mark that now is gone and failed or sold. And all these things are going on. This is the moment, right? This Christmas time is probably, and again, one of the reasons why I love doing this interview is because I'm learning about all this stuff that I sort of knew about, but now I'm finally hearing it from you directly. But this is the moment, right? So what's going on in your mind? What's going on in your heart when you're thinking like all of this stuff that I thought I had, the physical, the material, the women, the physical relationships there, is all at this, is this the moment where it's all coming out? Is this the moment that or is there more to the story? I'm wondering, is this the time, this Christmas season, where you're like, I'm at my lowest, and all of a sudden that like there's the rebound that's coming, and Lindsay's a part of that? Or where are we at in the story here? I'm a little bit unsure.
That is a very, very good question. And I would love to say that we are at the bottom of the barrel.
Okay.
But we are not.
We're not. All right. So let's keep talking. So help me understand what happens at Christmas. What happens with the Tony Robbins material?
Yeah. So Josh, like, at this point, this was all I'll call forced accountability. Lindsay knew, like, her and I met each other in March or April of that year. She was still married but separated, right? She wasn't a completely free woman at that point. I was obviously involved in just one other relationship at that point, right? Everything else I'd already been caught cheating once before, which left only one woman left in that situation, right? And so as we got to know each other, we had experienced a lot of fun and a good connection there. But she brought to the surface, like, right, this wasn't some sort of like cleansing of my soul and palate, like, oh, I'm so tired of living this lie that I have to get it all out. It was like, we start getting phone calls consistently from, at that point, Bank of America. And then because her and I are attached socially, Bank of America starts calling her and said, like, what's going on here? And so then she brings it to me, like, what's going on? Well, I start with lying to her. I'm like, there's just an issue, right? I don't know what it is. I'll call them and figure it out, but I've been paying the mortgage and XYZ. Well, I pull that off for a month or two.
So you're being mildly honest. Like, there's an issue, but not really telling her any of the detail, right? So you're at the point where you've been called out. You know that you got to be a little bit more honest. Like, there's an issue over here with the car. There's an issue over here with the house. There's an issue over here with Bank of America. But you're not just uncovering it all yet, right? So
no,
it gets worse.
I'm not coming clean with any of this stuff yet, Josh. Like, it's still finding me. I'm not attacking it.
Yeah.
Right. So all this stuff is going on in the background in December, right? And it's a thing where I'm able to deflect it away, right? We're still not even having mild honesty yet. I would still say that I'm a damn liar, right? I don't know how else to say it other than that. Like, I'm only owning the pieces that I feel like I have to own in that moment to pacify the person that's got me on the hot seat.
Just to deflect the attention, keep them at bay, if you will. Just give them enough information that they're not digging any deeper.
100%. Absolutely. And then we pivot into, right, we get through the holiday season, we get through New Year's and New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. And there's a meeting, my ex, right, the one that broke up with in December, I'll say. She says, hey, there's some mail that came to my house for you. I need to give it to you, right? And I think she connects with me either through Facebook or email. There's some way, because she's still blocked everywhere. I haven't unblocked her. I'm not doing anything now. In the man I am now, I realize how pattern driven we are as individuals. So I had a pattern of communicating with her at certain times throughout the day. And so to replace some of those patterns, I filled them in with communicating with who's now my wife, Lindsay. But there were still times where I was Like, what's she doing on social media? What, like, I'm occupying the space. Now, I know in my heart I don't want to be with her. Like, I know this, and there's nothing wrong with this woman. She's, like, truly, like, I want to make sure that I never paint anybody in a bad light. I was great at lying, right? I was just really phenomenally good at lying, and so I had the wool pulled over a lot of people's eyes. And so we meet at a neutral place, right, in a grocery store. Down here, it's Giant Eagle in Columbus, Ohio. And we meet, and it's open, and she's like, here's the mail. And she's very curt, right? She's very direct, she's very crass, and rightfully so, right? Like,
right.
But there's no connection there. There's no spark, there's no anything. But my wife has this crazy sense of either intuition or knows everything about me before I know it. And so literally, I leave this Giant Eagle, we're at the restaurant side of it. I might have been there, Josh, 25 minutes in total. There was not a long conversation.
Right.
Get in the car, drive back, wherever I was driving to. And she said, she calls me. What are you doing? Oh, I just got done at the grocery store, XYZ. She's like, no. I know you're with somebody. Man, how do you know this?
You're not just at the grocery store, Ryan. Tell me the truth.
Yeah, and so I tell her, right? I'm like, here's the stuff. Here's what's went on, right? There was some mail. And she said, like, I don't say one of the first times, but that was the first time I truly, truly remember hearing it. She's like, you're just better than this. Like, I already haven't left you, and I've known what you've done. We're already still trying to put together the pieces of a relationship. I haven't ever yelled at you. Like, I get it. There's things that you're going to have to process through. Just stop lying to me. Like, you're better than how you're acting. And it was such a calm, like, energetic, like, from how I sit now, right? It pierced through my soul in this way of like, wait. This person cares that much about me?
Yeah, Ryan, I was going to ask you, like, how did it feel for someone to tell you you're better than this? Because I've heard that a few times, and it's a soul-piercing comment. So when you heard that, maybe, I don't know what your background was when you were growing up, relationships with your parents, if they're married, divorced, if they were supportive or not. Mm-hmm. But, when I've heard that, like, you're better than this, like, why are you doing this? This hasn't happened often in my life, but once or twice, it's like, oh my, reach through my chest, rip out my heart, throw it on the table, pierce it with a knife, like, you've got me. So what was it like for you?
Josh, I think that's one of the most eloquent ways I could possibly hear it stated, right? I hear it, and there's this eerie cold that comes over me, right? Like with the goosebumps that come up on the arm and the sick to my stomach, but not because I've been caught, but like because there's like a complete disruption of my own internal belief system. Like I'm so predisposed to waiting for someone to yell at me. Like when something doesn't go right, I'm going to get, we'll call it the wrath of God or whatever someone believes in, right? Doesn't matter your religious belief system, but it's going to rain down on me. I'm kind of built for that. Like, go ahead, yell at me. Like, I'm used to that. And she says, you're just, you don't have to lie. You're better than this. Like, I'm proving to you that I'm not going somewhere yet. Like, just stop. And so when you say like, where was the bottom? That was at least the beginning of the inflection point where it was really like, okay, here we are. I have a woman that's incredible, right? I don't know if she's going to be the woman for life yet, but she's showing me a different part of who I am.
And in spite of all the things that you put her through, she hasn't left yet.
Correct.
Although she had every right to leave, every option to leave.
Mm-hmm.
She sees more in you, probably, is what I'm feeling here, that you probably saw in yourself. Because only if she felt that way could she step out and say, Ryan, you're better than this. Like, I see a better version of you, a bigger, better version of yourself, and you're not there. Maybe, Ryan, you don't see it in yourself, but I see it in you. And all of a sudden, it's like, okay. And I wonder, Ryan, if at that point, like, what I'm feeling and sensing and hearing it from you is like the lying, the cheating, the showing of money or material things that you could afford, but you really couldn't, is all a way to feed the beast, feed the personality, feed the thing that you were creating, although that was never really honestly who you were. And all of a sudden, you have this massive Band-Aid ripped off. Lindsay rips it off by saying you're a bigger, better version of yourself. This is not you. Like, stop lying, Ryan. You're better than this. And I don't know if that's a sense of like relief, because all of a sudden she told you, what I'm sensing is she told you it's okay to stop doing and being what you were portraying, because that's really not who you were. That's the sense that I'm getting. How did that feel for you?
Oh, it was the most beautiful feeling. Like, I don't know, there's truly an eloquent enough way to articulate what that did for me at a soul's level. Like, truly starting to put back together the pieces of, again, my soul, my child that's inside of me that was searching for things he never got from his parents. Like, there's this moment where that little child just feels protected and safe. And so from that place, right, we're able to have the conversation shortly thereafter. And certainly, Josh, I don't want to misrepresent it. That was like that night I drove home and, here, let me just unpack all this stuff, right? I wasn't quite there yet.
Yeah, right.
But over the next
to unpack all that in one night, man. It's going to take a minute, right?
Of course. So, over the next period of a few weeks, I finally come clean with the mortgage stuff with her and say, hey, look, the rental property that I have, it's in foreclosure, right? We have a couple weeks where we can save it still. We can get it out. Fortunately, her divorce had been finalized, and she walked away with a small, like a sum of money that was enough to stop the foreclosure proceedings, catch up on the back due mortgage, negotiate down the penalties that were there, and then we just put the house on the market for sale, right? And so we're able to recoup that cash and get out from underneath the property. I'd had it for, 6 or 7 years, right? Just a little single family home, right? $200,000 when I bought it. I think we sold it for $230,000, right? It was appreciated enough to offset what we went through. Still wasn't all the way to the point of like, oh, here's all the truth, right? I told her about all the old infidelities, that I'd never been someone that was, I call it monogamous to 4 people, right? And as crazy as that sounds, I wasn't the guy that was.
Sounds crazy, by the way. Crazy as it sounds crazy.
But Josh, I was never the guy. A one night stand is nothing I've ever had before. I've never been interested in what that feels like. I loved the emotional connection that I could have with someone, getting to know them, the jousting back and forth, the flirtation, the communication. And of course, eventually that would end up in a different type of relationship. And so it was never like I could travel anywhere in the country and I'm not going, to the hotel lobby trying to find somebody new. It was, I say now, and again, my perception of reality has changed massively in the past, at this point, 4.5 years. I now look at it like I had pieces and parts of great relationships with some truly great people that were never 10 out of 10, right? I would have 8 out of 10, and maybe I had enough, I'll call it testicular fortitude, to sit down with that woman and say, it would be great if we could do these 3 things together, right? This would make this relationship a quote unquote 10 out of 10. I don't know if I ever said that or not. In my mind, I did, but if I did, I'm sure it was in a very passive manner at that point, because I was scared to death to be alone. Like, I was petrified of what being alone would be like. And so that person would slowly either try or not try, and I would leave myself open for a new communication. And the next woman that I would find, she would certainly have the 2 things that the first woman, quote unquote, didn't have or wasn't presenting, but she also didn't have 10 out of 10, right? She's missing her own 2 or 3 things. And inherently, again, I want to say, I don't believe she was missing anything, just we didn't have that alignment.
Right, sure.
And so I was just always trying to put together some empty pieces in what I wanted from a holistic relationship. Like, I wanted all these things. And so I share all this with Lindsay, like all the way back to, first relationships ever at 18 and 19 and what those look like. And really just, here it is. And she's like, okay. She didn't know me back then. There's no sort of angst. She's not mad at it. She's like, thanks for telling me. And we just kind of all the cards
to get a little bit of a foundation of kind of all the way back, sort of pattern of behavior, pattern of thought process, even though it's not impacting her maybe opinion of where you're at today, because she only knows you from today going forward. She's at least getting your insight on what that looks like. That's good.
Absolutely. And so the house is sold. She knows all the stuff that's went on, right, with relationships. She knows that the business is shut down. She knows that there's really not, she doesn't know how little money is left, but she knows there's not big sums of money left in any capacity. Of all things, I meet a guy that owns a custom clothing business, right? And I'm still a decent sized guy, but then I was 285 pounds, right? An amateur bodybuilder, filled to the gills full of anabolic steroids, and really just convinced I have to be, my identity has to be a professional bodybuilder. Like that is all that matters. And
I remember, Ryan, seeing you when we were at Total CEO, the mastermind, when Vinny held the very first event, and he invited entrepreneurs and thought leaders and investors and business owners from all over the country. Gary Vaynerchuk was there, and there was just tons of guys who were just real, just beasts of their niche, their industry. I remember you walking in, I think it was the second day, and you were just dressed like to the nines, man. I'm like, that is you looked like, dude, five diamonds, like perfect suit, perfect build. You were massive, right? Full of, like you said, anabolic steroids. But holy shit, I was like, man, because I knew you from Brain Host. I knew you from the hosting business. I didn't know you well, but I knew who you were, and I knew you took over the business from Vinny and Ryan, and Vinny and Mark. And then, that didn't work out, and knew some of the things that you were getting into. And, I was like, holy shit. I think you saw you at some other events where you were doing like some different displays and some different things with the suits. And I was like, wow, man, that's an incredible change. First of all, I thought from where you were to what you were doing. Was wondering like what that looked like, starting a new business and doing all of it. But in some of my discussions with you and some of the other interviews I've heard from you, like this becomes a big pivot point, right? Because of the people you begin to meet, because you're selling these very expensive suits and clothes. So tell us about this experience, because this feels like the journey, like getting even more honest with yourself and some of the things that you learned just associating with some of these people who bought these custom suits. So tell us more about the experience, the business, but what you learned along the way.
Yeah, Josh, you're spot on. So again, kind of the last entry point into that was I'm outside. At this point, I was learning from another man that had started his own company. I'm outside our office in downtown Columbus. I come outside to hop in my F-250 Platinum diesel pickup truck, black on black, all the toys, and it's not there.
I'm like, well, where's the truck?
Right? Like, it was here, 30 minutes ago. So look around, and then my phone rings, and I answer, right? I don't know the number. And it's the repo guy saying, hey, just so you know, we picked up the truck. It's going to be at this lot. Here's Ford Motor Credit's phone number. If you want to get it out, they're going to walk you through it. Right? And I'm like, oh, okay. You guys were serious that when you fall 2 payments behind, like there's not a third grace period. Like, all right, well, now I know what I'm playing with. Like this is now the bottom. So I get to call my wife, right, back then my girlfriend, and say, okay, the last domino has fallen. My truck just got repossessed. Can you come downtown and pick me up? And let's talk about how to get, what we're going to do going forward. And we look at what we're doing going forward. And Josh, I remember pretty clearly I had $7,000 left in liquidity, right? $7,000 left to my name. Certainly no credit card availability, nothing like that. A little bit of investments, but not much, and didn't want to touch those. And Ford Motor Credit wanted to charge me $6,500, right? They tacked on all these fees, and I had to pay 2 additional payments and like all this stuff. And I said to her, like, I just can't get my head wrapped around this because I don't know that every month I'm going to make the $1,000 to make the payment. Like, I don't know how this is going to work out.
Brand new business, trying to figure that whole thing out. Not much money left. Yeah, you're stuck, right? Rocking a hard place.
And I say, I think it makes the most sense for me to go out and buy a $1,500 cash car, let the truck go back, tell Ford Motor Credit, like, you're right, I'm not going to be able to make the payment. Let's see if we can eventually settle up with them. And so I go from, right at my peak, right, new M5, Porsches, Range Rover, Sport, Supercharged. Like, I'm a single guy. I mean, not really, right? Not married guy. Multiple cars in the driveway, multiple motorcycles. And now I'm paying $1,500 cash for I think it was a 1998 Cadillac sedan DeVille that was gold, right, with gold leather interior. Like the quintessential, like I literally bought it from an 80-year-old woman, right? Like that was the car that I bought.
Pimping around in a gold leather interior. That's great. But man, I mean, it's all the last. That's the last domino, right? It's fallen.
That's it.
That's fallen.
It. The
last domino's fallen, and so now I'm able to finally start to rebuild, right, and start to rebuild inside the clothing world, right?
So Ryan, how important was it? So for those people that are looking at rebuilding, how important now that you coach so many people on optimizing their life? I imagine that this $1,500 used, 15-year-old vehicle, this is a big point. This is a big deal because now, in order to rebuild, and a lot of people who've tried a business or a relationship, gone through a divorce or abuse or addiction, or just not living at their highest capacity, oftentimes it's when the last domino finally falls that they're able to recognize that and say, well, I've got nothing left in my old life. The old me is gone now. I've got to start to rebuild but I don't have anything left, so I might as well rebuild. I might as well recreate the new me, the bigger, better me. But it's got to have that last domino's got to fall. Sometimes when that last domino is still outstanding, we don't give up the old life or don't give up the old habits or don't give up the old routines that are holding us back from new growth. So when you look through that process, how important was it that F-250, the platinum, amazing truck? I know what that looks like. It's a perfect truck for you, by the way. How important was it that truck was gone and you were forced to spend $1,500 on a used car?
I'll say it was the second most important part of the equation. Okay. Only outpaced by finally getting radically honest with the facts, right? Because the majority of us live in this fantasy land of where we want the world to believe us to be. And even if the world is just our ego, right? The fragile version of self that somewhere wasn't all the way developed through childhood, that's deeply rooted in our subconscious, that's afraid to be vulnerable, right? Like I fully realize that my success in life now has been based around my sheer authentic vulnerability. Like, go ahead, Google me. You'll see all this stuff is true. Like it's all there, right? I don't have to run from any of this. Like this is the facts because I finally laid them all out and said, okay, removing emotional bias, removing cognitive bias of my perception of what's going on. What's the actual facts? Fact one, I made a bunch of money and didn't have a financial advisor to save me from myself. Fact two, I was too ego driven to listen to people that were trying to help me. Fact three, I couldn't tell the truth. Fact four, and like, there's this whole long laundry list. I don't remember how many facts were on there, but it was big. Like and it's looking at it, I said, okay, that's everything. And this wasn't even something to show to somebody else. This is just, it's all down on paper and I'm forced to look at it and reconcile. It's like a balance sheet inside of a business. You can say you're making all the money in the world, but at the end of the month, you look at your P&L and your balance sheet, like what's left? Like what is the fact? Well, the fact is I am now at the bottom, but the fact also is I have a $1,500 asset that can never be taken from me. If I had to, I can live in the car. If I had to, I can sleep in the car and go on the road and sell suits. If I had to, this can't be taken away. All right, I'm finding a positive in this now. I'll call it the silver lining to the facts of just how, admittedly in that moment, Josh, it feels really shitty. Like, it's like that's the biggest ego blow in the world to me is to drive this old Cadillac. Like it's almost laughingly God, getting his final jab at me. It's like, you love cars this much. You only have this much money. Like you're going to drive the thing that you would have never like.
You get to drive this. Considered. You get to drive this beauty. Look at you, Ryan, right? It's like, oh man, again, stab me in the heart. So Ryan, when you're, again, this inflection point of getting radically honest in this car just seems so important to the story that, when I see people trying to make a change, and we obviously coach a lot of entrepreneurs in their real estate investing business and their private equity and money raising business. But outside of that, in their personal lives, we often are coaching them as well and how to deal with starting a new business or leaving the corporate office in order to do real estate. And often what I talk about with them is getting radically honest on worst case scenario, right? Mm-hmm. And so how important was it for you at this moment for you to say, like, this is worst case scenario? I've lost everything. I've lost all the girls. I've lost all the money. I've lost all the assets, all the material. I barely saved the rental property. And like, it sounds like this car now is like, okay, I'm in worst case scenario, but worst case scenario is at least I have this asset. At least I could live in it. At least I can get around. It sounds like you're starting to reconcile, like this is the bottom and this piece, this car now becomes an important asset because at least I can do this, this, and this. It can't really get much worse. At least I can get around. At least I can sell suits. At least I can get to the gym. At least I can go to the park. At least I have this one thing. How important was that? Because for a lot of people, it's recognizing worst case scenario and realizing, worst case scenario, it's not really that bad. It sucks. It's awful. But at least I still have the capacity to be mobile, flexible. I can get around. And I've got something that can help me launch into the next phase of my life or my career. That's where it seems like you're kind of going. So tell us a little bit more about that. How does that feel?
Also, there was duality to that as well, right? There's part of me that's the old part, right? There's the ego-driven model of my life that feels horrible, right? Because again, it's such a disconnection from the way that the old part of me would have been associated, right? The people in the hosting world, the people in the direct response affiliate marketing world, the people that knew me even from the car sales world, right? Like I was the guy. Like I had accelerated my growth all throughout every industry, in my opinion, quicker than anybody else I had seen, right? Even in the affiliate marketing world, like we just grew so incredibly rapidly.
So fast.
And it was, that was the story of my life. And so now I have forced myself to retreat for a moment, and I'm still embarrassed, right? I'm still ashamed of this, but only slightly, because just like you said, there's the comparison is the devil, really, devil reincarnated. If I compare to my old life, I'm at the bottom, but all I have to do is really drive anywhere in any part of town, and I can find 50 people that would give almost anything to trade places with me in this exact moment, because I have a $1,500 car that gets around. I've got $5,500 in cash in the bank, right? I've got a good body. I've got a phenomenal, at that point, girlfriend, now my wife, right? We live in a great part of town. We're able to make our bills. Like, what am I really that upset about? Like, it depends on which side of the comparative table you want to look at. So I started looking, right? Not saying I was better than these other people, but just eliminating the fact of I'm less than. Like, I have to go through this. I started realizing this is where the Tony Robbins stuff comes in, right? Like this Cadillac didn't have an MP3 player, right? It didn't have satellite radio. It had a CD player. Well, it just so happened to be that as much as I was on the road and as much as I was traveling, that stuff was in the CD player all the time. That was it. Like it was just repeat, like that was all it was. And filling my head full of this new information of, we can call it some of law of attraction. We can call it some of eliminating limiting beliefs. And it started opening up, like everybody that he would ever refer to. And this is, to me, an incredible hack as you're listening. If you read a book and the author refers to another author or someone that influenced them, stop reading, grab your phone, go to Amazon, and buy everything you can from that person. Same thing on an audio, same thing on a podcast, right? If you're listening to Tim Ferriss show, if you're listening to this show, and Josh, you refer to some book or some inspiration, like press pause, it's not going anywhere, and go invest the $16 in the book or in the resource, because like there's this collective consciousness that keeps growing when information gets disseminated across people. And so you're sharing things that have made an impact in your life, and you put your own spin on it, just as we all have, right? That cognitive bias we all have. You and I could read the same book at the same time and come away with two completely different messages.
Right.
Great.
Right.
But if you thought enough about some resource to share it with me or with the world, well, I have immense respect and value for you. I might as well see what this is all about. I might as well buy it too. So that's 100% of what I did with the Tony Robbins stuff, right? Which introduced me to Napoleon Hill and all the stuff of his works all throughout his life. Then jumping into Jim Rohn, and then jumping into Wayne Dyer, and right, like all of a sudden this personal development box that I didn't really know existed, it's open. And because I spend so much time behind the windshield of that car, it's like I'm all of a sudden getting a PhD. And when I say that, I had a standing rule in clothing sales. If it was within 9 hours, as long as I could get 2 clients, I was going to come sell you suits. So from Columbus, Ohio, that's Chicago, Illinois, and that's New York City. And so I would get in my car at 2:30 in the morning, drive to New York City, sell 2 or 3 people suits, drive as far back as I possibly could without falling asleep at the wheel, pull over to a rest stop, sleep for 3 hours in that car, make it the rest of the way home. Now, in my custom clothing business, I wouldn't ship you back your suit. I would come back and hand deliver it in 45 days. Wow. So I then had to drive back and make the same delivery. But what I would do is I'd spend the next 45 days marketing to that city. So when I came back to deliver, I knew I had 3 or 4 more clients. So now all of a sudden I get on these rotations where, okay, I know every 6 weeks I'm in Chicago. Every 6 weeks I'm in New York. Every 6 weeks I'm down in Louisville, Kentucky. Every 6 weeks I'm in Cleveland, right? And so now all of a sudden I'm growing this client base by being a little more strategic with my time and not spending any money. Like I am not staying in a hotel. I'm sleeping in this car. Like I'm never going to be broke again. So it might not sound like much, but the $120, like now that I know Damon John's book, The Power of Broke, now that I know what broke really is, I'm not going to be broke. Like, damn it all, I will sleep in this car until it breaks. Which eventually...
By the way, Ryan, let me stop you. Ryan just mentioned The Power of Broke, And if you're going to keep Ryan's advice and actually use some of the content of this very interview, you should be putting the interview on pause and going and buying The Power of Broke by Damon John. So time out, time back in. Go ahead, Ryan.
Right. And so I now have from the research and the things that I do and what I'm so passionate about now, I realize what has created success and failure in my life. And not only the stories I tell myself, but it's aligning with passion. And passion and purpose to me can be used synonymously. And so I've proven it now with 150 plus clients. I've proven it with myself consistently. And I'd like to share just for a moment what that passion really looks like, what purpose looks like to me. In some capacity.
Now that we've gone full circle, right? I mean, there's so much that you have to share now on your own podcast and what you're doing with your group and the people that you coach. I was blown away when we were getting ready for this a couple weeks ago when you told me about all the various things that you're taking your group through and your people that you're coaching through. And it's a lot of it has to do, almost all of it has to do with your own personal life experiences and what you just described. And what I'd like to do, if you have the time, is to share some of those nuggets with our audience today. And of course, they can reach out to you and go to your website and buy your book and do a deeper dive with you, jump in your coaching program if they feel compelled to do that. But give our audience some of these opportunities, some of these optimizations. Like, what are you working on with your group now based on all those life experiences that you just went through? And you're building out this amazing audience now. You have a huge following all over social media and podcasting world and YouTube and all these different places. Help our people understand, like, if they're in a rut now, a rut that you were in, whether it's a mental rut, whether it's a financial rut, whether it's a relationship rut, what are, I know you can't go through all of it on this interview, but help people understand, where would you take them? Where would you help them start to, create a bigger, better version of themselves, recognize and eliminate the dumpster fires of their life that they've been through in the past, and become, this optimized life, this optimized relationship, this optimized health, this body, this being that you really help people get through now, because you've been through the proverbial dumpster fire, you've been through it all. Now your passion is to pay it forward and help them become a bigger, better, optimized version of themselves. So where does that begin? How do you help people get started? How do you help them make that change?
Yeah, Josh, great question. So, what segueing from suits into this, right? What ends up happening, just like you said, I get to be my own version of Napoleon Hill. And again, if you don't know Napoleon Hill, again, press pause. He's like the foundational starting of what modern day self-development, personal growth would really be founded about. He was somebody that got to travel the country and interview, J.P. Morgan and the Rockefeller family. And then as I look at his work and I look at what Tony Robbins shares and everybody I just made mention, I realize that everybody shares some variation of habits that they adhere to every day with ruthless commitment, right? Because we end up being the sum total of the habits that we adopt on a consistent basis. Right. And before I jump into the habits, I'll share another little psychological trigger event with you. Think of the last time that you yourself wanted to jump into something new, right? You were excited. You felt what we would call a false lift. From day 1 to day 22 to 24, you are super motivated, right? You're excited. You can see the future. You're painting this picture. You're telling everybody, like, I'm going to go crush this. This is what we're building. And you're amped up, and it's amazing because you're going to do that. But then from day 24 to typically day 66 to 70, you get stuck in the middle of what's referred to as the chasm of chaos. And the chasm of chaos exists because you have departed from the previous version of yourself, right? You can't reach back and touch the version from 21 days ago, right? He's too far gone because you've already opened your mouth and committed all these people. That's comfortable though. You want to go back there, but you haven't yet grown into the new person that has things that are done automatically. And so you're stuck in this confusing land where inside your head, you want to keep going back to the old version because it was easier, it was safe, right? The amygdala in your mind is part of your psychological analyzing system that is wired to eliminate anything that could cause harm to you. And harm ends up being things that are confusing that you don't already know. So the amygdala is firing and it's like, no, don't keep going that way. You don't know what's around the corner. And so you're in the state of consistent chaos. And you rewire your prefrontal cortex, which is the decision-making part, that's the front part of your brain, by having daily habits that can drive you through this chasm. And when you get past the chasm, right, you get to day 66, maybe as far as day 90, depending on the things you've been through in your life and successes and failures you've had. So I'll just say day 90. The things now become automatic. The sales phone calls you have to make, what it feels like to close the deal, what your real estate investing strategy is, like it's now ironclad. You're not even listening to somebody when they say, consider this other thing. Like, no, I have my operating procedure. This is how it is. But in that 24 to 66 day, almost anybody can come in and rattle your cages and shake you up. And so what I found is there is a foundational element that I refer to as the core operating procedure that I know provides value to everybody's life. And that you heard me make mention of it. It comprises of something for fitness, for your faith, whatever that means to you, for your family, and for your finances. Every day, without fail, doing small incremental things, right? Just small growth. So inside the fitness world, for me, it's fueling your body, right? You're going to have a fresh green smoothie of some capacity, give you nice, healthy energy every morning. Something easy. I see Josh looking around. I'm sure he's got one floating around somewhere. Again, yep, beautiful. He's shaking it up. He's shaking it up. You'll be able to see that on everywhere this is posted, right? But I share this, and not only does Josh have it, but almost every successful entrepreneur that I ever sold a custom suit to, big time executives in Manhattan, they're all drinking some sort of green smoothie when I show up at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, well, why the hell is this?
Right.
Okay, so they're drinking a green smoothie. Then they also sweat in some capacity, right? And then sweat, maybe you're not a lifter, right? Maybe you're a runner. Maybe you like to jump rope, but you sweat, you get those endorphins going typically early in the morning, right? You want to do these things really before, if you can, kind of before the sun comes up. The 5 a.m. club style stuff by a guy named Robin Sharma, right? If you, again, press pause, go buy Robin's book, incredible read, incredible guy. So you're now up, you're doing some things, you're sweating, you fueled your body. Now we switch over into faith. And faith can be, right, if you're a Christian, maybe it's reading the Bible. Like maybe that's your thing to attach deeper to it. Maybe if you're pseudo-agnostic, or what I'll say, I'm more quote unquote spiritual, right? I have my own belief system, not to impress that upon you. But for me, it's meditation, right? I want to quiet down my mind. I want to spend 20 minutes just dialing into, I'll call it the ultimate power, whatever that is. We can refer to that as God, doesn't matter to me. But really just having that connection and quieting down the chatter of my mind. Because what I have found, it was actually brought to me by an associate of mine, Jarek Robbins, where, think of this for a moment, if you will. You drank a half glass of Coca-Cola last night, right? And you left it on the island in the middle of your kitchen, right? And it's there, and when you set it down, it was still cold, right? It felt good, it tasted good. You go up to bed, you sleep all night, you get up, you brush your teeth in the morning, you do all the things. You slept for 8 hours, and you come downstairs first thing in the morning. And that cup of Coca-Cola is sitting there, but the ice cubes are melted. It's certainly warm, and it's definitely flat. Plus, you just brush your teeth, so you have that fresh, fluoride peppermint taste in your mouth. Would you imagine picking up that glass and drinking it? Of course not, right? You throw it in the sink right away. You wouldn't even consider that. But what we do inside of our mind is we carry the mental chatter from the night before into the next day, and it drives our decisions for the first part of the day. And so when you meditate, it's comparable to throwing out that old glass of Coca-Cola. Right? You're just clearing space. You don't have to sit with your legs crossed and hum and shave your head and become a Buddhist monk. It's just, for me, focusing on intentional breathing. It's just being quiet. It's not using social media. It's not having a TV on. It's not having music. It's just centering myself. And then from there, the second component, as far as it pertains to getting into the spiritual component, is to journal, right? To empty out whatever's left in your brain. I actually like something by a woman named Dr. Nicole LaPera, which is future self-journaling, where I'm going to journal who I want to become every day. Like, who am I? I'm always in a process of progress, just as you are. It's either forced progress or personal progress. If you journal who you want to become, something happens, right? Neuroplasticity is a real thing where you can increase the efficiency of neural pathways in your brain by actually writing things down. Don't type it, right? Something happens different when you type it. Don't speak it. Something happens different when you speak it. You physically get a sheet of paper and write. Like, there's a series of questions, and I have free resources for all this stuff. You can shoot me an email, right? However you want to get a hold of me. You have everything I have. But you future self journal. Then I get into family. And inside the family quadrant of life, Josh, it's too often that I believe we take most things for granted in our life that are good. And I was certainly the most guilty of this.
Definitely guilty of that too, man. I mean, they're there, they're around. It's like, you've always been here. I'm 43 years old. My birthday was 2 days ago. You've been here for 43 years. It's so easy to take that and them for granted until something happens. And then you're like, okay, oh my God, this is my support system. Oh, I forgot about you when things were easy. Now when things are difficult, I need you. I need your help. I need your support. I know you're going to be there for me. But man, because the reason why I bring that up is I'm so guilty of it, right? But the family, that unit is just never going to go away. It's your family. It's not like a friend. Like I often have conversations, Ryan, with my wife or my best friends and different guys. Like, man, being around you is so easy. But that is the friend relationship. It is easy because you plug in and it's supposed to be fun and you're supposed to just enjoy it. And then you can unplug with no commitment, right? And then when things do go wrong and the friends are there, you're like, oh, you're such a good friend. You are a good friend. But the family is there, good, bad, ugly, dumpster fire. So important to have those kind of relationships. And when they go bad, which a lot of us have dysfunctional families. I don't know if there is a quote unquote functional family anymore. We're all a little bit dysfunction. That's when they're really around, right? Is when we need them the most. It's pretty amazing how important they can be.
Yes. And in order to ensure that I'm always cultivating that and, watering the grass where I want it to grow, I practice a series of gratitude exercises, first and foremost with my wife every day without fail. I don't care what time zone I'm in. I don't care how late I've been up. I don't care what goes on. The first thing I start every morning with, even when I'm in the house, right? Like she's still sleeping and I'm downstairs at 5 o'clock in the morning. I pause and I think of something that I love, honor, or appreciate about her from the day before. Not overall, not you're beautiful. Like, sure, right?
We all
specific. Yeah, like you were beautiful when you did this yesterday, to have her know that I'm paying attention to the small details. And I share this with her through a text message, right? So I know I can do it anywhere. The secret to this is I don't care if she ever responds back. It's that I had to think of something that I'm truly grateful for her. So it doesn't matter when she comes downstairs and we don't see eye to eye on something in that moment. It doesn't matter when later in the day I forgot to put away the dishes or clean up the things that we do as men, right? At least I do, right? I own that.
Guilty.
Right? It's the fact of it's just for me to be grateful for the woman that she is. And then I pivot and we have a daughter, right? She's I call bonus daughter. She's not my blood, but she might as well be, right? I've been in her life since she was 4. She's 9 now. Where it's the same thing. I wake up every morning and I share with her. It started with a sticky note on her mirror, right? Prior to technology, prior to her having a phone, of just, I love you because, and something that I loved so that she always knew that. And then now with technology, I end it, no matter whatever happens in life, I will always love you, because she's going to experience things later on in her life where she will have to question if we truly love her, right? She's going to make mistakes just as all of us do. And the love that I have for her is unconditional. She can never break that. So I make sure that she hears that. And so that ends up taking care of the family, I'll call it part of the quadrant. Now, occasionally I'll extend that to people on my cell phone or connections I have in life or best friends right? But my wife is a non-negotiable and my daughter's a non-negotiable every day without fail. I have to be grateful for who they are, because from where I sit, you've now heard, they have together completely changed the trajectory of my life.
Oh yeah.
They have changed who I am as a man.
It sounds like they are the reason, because without Lindsay saying to you, Ryan, you're better than this. Like I see more in you than you see in yourself. Who knows what trajectory you'd be on right now?
100%, Josh, like without any question whatsoever. And then that final quadrant as it pertains to finance is taking the time to read something that's going to catapult your business forward. Now, I say read in today's society, right? We're always trying to cram more time in. So maybe it's an audiobook in the car, maybe it's a podcast. I still like to read. Like I like to make the time. And this is where I'm going to lean into pretty hard as you're listening. The thing of you don't have enough time is a bullshit excuse. It's just not important enough to you. Like I get up at 4:30 every morning without fail, because from 4:30 until 7:30 every morning is my time. No, I'm not responding to text messages. I'm not looking at emails. I'm not cruising social media. That is my window to fill my head and my soul with what I need to perform as the best version of me. And I don't care what happened the night before. I don't care what I have to do that day. I'm going to get up and I'm going to read, and then I'm going to share, right? So it's kind of a discover and declare. I'm discovering something. I'm finding something. And we're not going to read a certain number of pages, right? We're not reading for, I have to finish this book in a certain amount of time.
Not for volume. It's for importance. It's for significance. It's finding one thing. It could be on page 1 or page 10 or page 100. It's got to be something that's significant, not just I read 50 pages today.
That is exactly right? And so you read until you find that gift. And once you find the gift, to, again, increase cognition and to sharpen up those neural pathways. We'll call it the neuroplasticity. You're going to share this with somebody, right? So if you have your own company, it's very easy to hop in the office and share with, your executive staff, or it could be your assistant. I don't care who it is. Like, hey, I read this in this book, and here's how we apply it, right? The other thing that we find, or that I find with most entrepreneurs, we are great at acquiring information. Like, I'm going to read every book in the planet. But then we don't
podcast, listen to every interview. We have our phones. It's so easy to listen to stuff. I find myself, I'm guilty of this at times. Listen. Oh my God, that interview was awesome. And then I'm off to the next thing. Didn't apply a single stitch of it.
Well, and that's it, right? Knowledge without application is worthless. I would rather have you not invest the time and just work on exploring the capacities of your own mind and seeing what comes out of it. Because when there's something additional that happens when you teach somebody what you learned, right? And I refer to it, if you teach it to somebody because if you can't teach it, you don't know it. And if you don't know it, you can't live it. And if you're not going to live it, why even bother? Right? So I encourage people to read less, like hold a book, physically touch it. Maybe it takes you a month to read the book. We're not in competition for how we read. Like, you don't get a gold star at the end of the year because you read 7,500 books and I read 7. Right. Like, you're going to get a gold star in your mind because you applied the knowledge from the 7 books and it changed your trajectory of where you're going. And what's difficult for most of us is, especially I believe in this entrepreneurial world that we live in, there's always a new idea, right? There's always a new book. There's always a new stimulus. And so, sure, you apply the training that you picked up from whoever you're reading right now or whatever podcast, and you're diligent, right? You apply it for 25 days or so. Of course you do, because that's when it's fun and exciting. But then you get to day 25 to 66 in that chasm of chaos, and there's another stimulus that comes in. And so you shift and you pivot, and you start working on another thing. And you never mastered or even tried to consistently apply the first lesson. And so the people around us are always waiting for you to come up with the next idea. And so you start actually inside of a business, you start losing people following you because they know everything's going to be a temporary lift. That every 30 or 45 days, you're coming up with a new idea. You're working on a grand plan. You're working on something that's in the future. You know the high number that you're going to hit. But the consistency and follow through on any individual action never makes it 90 days. So people are just waiting like, this will pass. It's no big deal.
You lose, and in that moment, because I've been there as a CEO, I've made that mistake. I have that trophy. I've got too many of them actually. You also lose a tremendous amount of credibility, right? Because if you've done it once, done it twice, now you've done it 6 times, and your team's like, look, man, we know what makes money. We know how we make profits. Your new idea is going to come and go in the next 90 days. It's not going to be here in the next quarter. So we're just going to keep doing what we're already doing because we know it works and it's comfortable for us and we do it all the time and we're already good at it. So all of a sudden now when you do have that amazing idea that really could propel your business forward, nobody's paying attention.
Yes, which is why I believe it's so important, especially from where we sit, to be a part of some sort of mastermind. And a mastermind doesn't have to be that you invested tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars to be with entrepreneurs. It's going to be with 4, 6, maybe 10 other people, minimum, that are willing to share ideas back and forth in an open forum so that you can vet out your plan prior to releasing it on your tribe. Because if I can call Josh and say, hey, buddy, I read this thing. I think it's brilliant. And Josh says, well, it's funny you say that, right? I read the same thing or tried it 6 months ago. And here's where it didn't quite work for us. You just might want to think about this before you start. And then because we both brought him up, right, then we call Vinny. And Vinny says something along the same lines, like, man, that's a brilliant idea, but here's where it didn't work for us. And now all of a sudden we can vet out, like, okay, do we even want to open our mouths to our tribe close, locally, our company? Because we only get so many times of losing their faith before there's a couple bad apples that appear, right? There's a couple rotten tomatoes that slowly start to infect everybody, where the company still makes money, but you feel that the tribalism, that unity is just being eroded, and you can't really figure out why. You're like, man, this used to be such a great place to work, and everybody loved it, but now it's like, we're just all in here punching the clock, making money, and leaving. You can slow that down by having people to connect with, right? Like, but again, I'm going to encourage you, find someone that's a little bit above you, like someone that you're striving to try to achieve to become. And then don't be afraid to turn backwards and make sure you have somebody you're reaching down to pull up the rung of the ladder as well, right? You have to have, in a perfect mastermind world to me, you got to have your hand in both directions. You can't just, I'm just going to hang out with the guys that have, $50 million businesses. I have a $10 million business. No, there's some on both sides. And that's what makes this so brilliant and beautiful, because again, as entrepreneurs, we all use that financial number as like, it's the flag we put in the ground. And okay, I got a $50 million flag, so it's higher than your $10 million flag.
Yeah. I'll never forget when Vinny, and this is along those lines of this discussion around new ideas and bringing things to market. It's amazing to me how many entrepreneurs I've met, Ryan, I'm sure you've met them too, that think this way. Like, I have $1 million business or a $5 million business or a $50 million business. And they become a little bit egotistical around it to say, like, I'm so good at this business. I can go do another one. I want to own this business and that business and this business, and none of them are in the same vertical. None are in the same niche. None of them play off each other. One's maybe in healthcare, one's maybe in real estate, one's maybe in some other digital marketing thing. And Vinny actually said to me one time, he's like, do you know how egotistical you have to be just to think, just because you created one $5 million company or one $10 million company or one $100 million company, that you can do it again? Because you probably can't. And so when he said that, I was thinking, like, how many times do we as business owners, especially we go to an event, we go to a marketing event or a mastermind group, we get the idea like you just talked about, we come home, we pour it onto our team, and all of a sudden now the team is fractured, they're not interested, they're not sure which direction we are going. And so one of the very important qualities of a great entrepreneur and CEO is the ability to take all the ideas, to think them through, to meditate like you talked about, to actually now concoct a real business plan, share that with guys in a mastermind group, or share it with a board of directors or some leadership group that pokes holes in it. And only after all of that vetting and all that underwriting, if you will, then take it to your team and then stick with it until it becomes a real business and it's actually making money. So many of us go to a conference, get an idea, come home, and throw up on our team or throw up on our spouse, throw up on our assistant and say, here's all the changes we're going to make. And then 90 days later, nobody gives a shit because none of it happened, right? So what you've actually described is a real way to take those ideas and actually sift and sort through the muck and actually take the best ideas and actually a real tactical way to bring those to market if it's a legitimate idea that has some legs. That's what I love about what you just described.
Well, thanks, Josh. I want to, put a bow on this part of where my mind works and how my system works. Right? I believe lightning can strike twice. I believe we can create multiple different businesses. But I believe there's a part that most of us miss that are entrepreneurs. And that always going to tie back to the passion and purpose. Where I know inside of all of us, right? I can assume if you're listening, you had to have had a mother and a father. Right? You might not know either one of them, but you're here, so it takes a man and a woman, right? So you have a mother and a father. And from that side, you don't have to say that one parent was better or worse. Eliminate better or worse from your vocabulary. But you, right now, as you think about your childhood, you wished you could have received something more from one of your parents. Right? And I don't care what that is. We all have something. And from that level of wanting to receive something extra from your parent, you end up trying to solve for that in your adulthood. And I'm going to share with you real quick what that looks like in my life. I was really, really close with my father up until I was 8 years old, right? Every weekend I would go to work with him. We were buddies. I would play outside as he was working. Like, we'd go bowling together. He was the guy, right? My mom certainly loved me. She was around, but like, I remember so vividly and so fondly the relationship with my father. Then we move and, life has it that my dad starts focusing solely on production, right? He starts working more and more and more and has to travel a bunch. And so from third grade until my parents got divorced at 14, I don't remember seeing my dad a whole lot. And I remember when I did see him, he was tired, and that ended up turning into him being aggressive, maybe a little verbally abusive, maybe even somewhat physically abusive, right? But that's from I'll call it cognitive bias, right? If that's my belief system, so I'm going to hold it to be true. Mm-hmm. And so then what ends up happening is, right, as I look back, all I ever wanted from my dad was to feel love. Right? Because we form developmentally in our subconscious, consistently really from 4 to 14. It could be 6 to 14 before kind of the doors get put on that vault. And during that time, I just wanted to feel love from him, and I don't ever remember feeling it now. And not only did I want to feel loved, I wanted to feel heard, because every time I would share something with him, it was met with some sort of negative pushback. It was met with, no, that's wrong, or you could have done this better. And again, not saying my father's a bad man, but that's how I viewed it. And so as I look at my most successful businesses that I've ever been a part of, right? Not even that I've owned. Automotive sales, I was elite because I could sit down with you. I could make sure you felt heard and that I was heard. And I could share time and space in a way that you would feel energetically loved by me. As we jump into the hosting world, I was elite as an affiliate manager because I was communicating consistently and making sure that people felt that. As a CEO, I lost that because it was ego driven and I no longer was connecting with anybody. I was in my own tower and playing very small and playing alone. And so it crumbled. Then I go into the high risk merchant processing. There was nothing other than dollars and cents. There was no connection with people. It crumbled. Step in the custom clothing business. The reason I was able to make such a big impact there is I would spend time getting to know every client. It had nothing to do with suits. I want to know their kids and their family. I want to take them out to dinner. Admittedly, I wanted to associate with the people that were at the level that I used to be because it was filling in part of who I was, but I was still feeling loved and feeling heard. And then now, in what I'll do for the rest of my life, in this, coaching strategy, whatever you want to call it, I get to sit across from people all day long, like I'm sitting across from Josh, and I assure you that I have love, endless love for you, Josh, for even being able to share time and space with me. And then we get to communicate, right? Like I get to be heard and you get to be heard. And I don't have a false pretense of what we're going to achieve from this. I'm just here to share time and space with you. And so when you run that through yourself through that same exercise and you think honestly, without your own bias, the times where you were most successful, and success doesn't have to be just financial. It's how you feel in your soul. Because if you can dial into your soul for long enough, money always follows, right? Where your focus goes, your energy flows and energy ends up turning into money. Money, in my opinion, is just a unit of energy back and forth. And when you're in alignment, things come easier. And so the times that were tough, the times where things didn't make sense, the times where you were not experiencing abundance were probably because you were misaligned with your purpose. And those two variables that you were trying to solve for were never there.
Oh my God, right? Like oh man, like you're digging into my soul right now, brother. It's like I can just feeling the businesses and the times in my life when I've been in alignment, how fun and easy it was. And like you said, money flowed and relationships were great, doing what I enjoyed, what I was passionate for. And other times when I thought like, well, I've got to level up to another thing. I'm a bigger person, or I'm better than, I've got to level up to a different level in my companies or in my relationships. And I took the passion that I had for that one thing, jumped into something else, something I wasn't as passionate for, or I left the passionate thing behind, and things didn't go as well. Things didn't, the money didn't come as easy. Relationships weren't as easy. Getting up for work was harder. Oh my God, like you're just doing your thing, and it's so resonating with me, brother, because I've been there, I've made that mistake, I have that trophy, and to some degree, I'm searching now in my own life about where I want to spend my time. Like even this morning, I had 2 meetings with different potential investors who could invest in our fund or invest in our apartment deals. It's so easy for me. It flows so easily to connect with them, to find out what's important to them, to find out about their risk tolerance and about their families and where they want to go and what's important to them and how to protect their money and how to grow their money and enjoy the investments that they're making. It's easy. It's so easy. It's so fun. I know these guys will invest with me. Like I've already made the connection with them. And then I think about other times in my businesses when I'm doing other things other than that, and it just doesn't come as easy. It's a little bit of, I'm trying to get excited for it, and I just can't do it, man. So it really comes back to that passion, the purpose. It's ultimately what it's all about. And people think, well, if I do what I'm passionate for, what if it doesn't make money? So Ryan, what are your thoughts around that? If I do what I'm passionate for, what if it's not a moneymaker? What if it's not something I can monetize and have the lifestyle that I want doing something that I enjoy? Do you have a thought around how does that work or how does it play together?
So to me, that's just a story in your head, right? Admittedly, and I hate to be so coy with the answer, but if you sat down with me, I don't care what your things are. Really, take what I just said. I know my thing is I have to feel love and I have to feel heard. Well, how in the world do you make money feeling loved and feeling heard, right? What am I going to open a hug center somewhere where you come in and you charge for a hug and that's just what it is, right? That's right. That's so surface level in thinking. You can apply, and this is an incredible point to bring up, Josh. You can apply your genius zone, your passion, your purpose to any business anywhere. But what you do then is you hire around your passion and your genius zone, right? Like in sales, I'm elite. I have no problem saying it. When it comes to connecting with a client, I am phenomenal. Like I'll put myself against any coach, any strategist on the planet. Don't have any problem saying that. When it comes to operating the finite details of the business, I'm decent at it, right? I'd rather have an elite project manager that just reports to me that essentially ends up being the operational head of what goes on. Like the detail work, I get it, I know it, but that's not my genius zone. Like that's not where I'm going to spend my time. So instead of forcing myself into that bucket saying I have to do that, right? Again, that's going to be that interplay of that ego-based model. You actually don't have to. Like, in my opinion, the only absolute truth is there is no absolute truth. And so when you quit trying to say like, no, if you start a business, you have to be the CEO, you have to be the president, you have to be the, chief revenue officer, you have to be all these things. Well, sure, certainly. But if your genius zone, like mine, sales and the things that I do, I would rather just off the start bring on a partner that his genius zone complements my genius zone, that we trust each other. And no, I'm not going to quote unquote make as much money. But I will challenge that belief and say I'll probably make 3 times more because I'm only doing what I love doing. And he's only doing what he loves doing. And so I'm not frustrated any night when I go home. I don't feel overburdened and overtaxed with, how I'm spending my mental energy. And I'm getting 2 rock stars, 2 truly elite players to both be on the team bouncing the ball in the same direction. Like you can take your passion, your purpose, and figure out how to apply it to any business anywhere if you think enough about it, right? Which is, again, minds, love, and communication or connection, which means I can show people in a sales capacity that I genuinely care about what they're doing and that they feel love back from me. So you can make money anyway and do it ethically and legally and honoring yourself and honoring what's important to you. And
That's
push
fantastic.
forward.
That's fantastic. Ryan, I know we gotta kind of start to move towards wrapping up. This has been just an incredibly fun interview. I'm already thinking we've got to have you back on, and once this gets out to our audience and they're hearing your passion and everything that's coming, I just feel like there's more that we can give and more value we can get out into the world, into our community. So wouldn't be surprised if I ping you in the short term and have you come back out and do another in addition to this. But a couple final questions that I've got to ask you. First of all, tell our audience where they can connect with you. RyanNiddel.com, I know, is your website. Your podcast. Tell our audience how they can just connect with you on a couple different platforms and jump into your content. And then if they want to jump into the next level and get some personal coaching or group coaching from you, like how do they just engage with you and your different programs?
Yeah, thanks, Josh. So Ryan Niddel, it's Niddel, looks like Niddel, right? That's everywhere. So that's going to be Facebook, that's Instagram, right? I'm big on the value contribution. So if you wanted to know more about just who I am, don't even go to my website yet. Don't worry about spending money. Don't do any of that stuff. Just go to Instagram. I'm really active there. So daily value in stories with complimentary PDFs and daily value in every post. Like there's very little salesmanship that goes on in there, right? It's a lot of just consistent value add. The second tier would be to listen to, as this will launch, my previous podcast, which is 15 Minutes to Freedom, right? It'll have 440 episodes. It's been a daily show for the past year and a half. You get a very clear taste of my mindset, my methodology as it pertains to coaching. And then the new podcast is the Optimized Life Show, which I'm going to dive much deeper into some of the things you heard me speak about now. A lot of the psychological reframing and how our brains work and our belief systems, right? How to fuel your body from the inside out and the science behind it, right? I'm analytical by nature, so I love sharing the specific details of how things work. And then if any of that stuff at all resonates with you, if you head to RyanNiddel.com, there's a couple different areas of commitment where we can talk about anything from a really simple $19, hey, I want to see what this is all about for 20 days, all the way into a one-on-one coaching protocol that can be a year-long commitment where you'd have access to me in a way that very few people get access to.
Fantastic. Ryan, couple final questions. Favorite book or most recent book that you've read that really resonated with you?
So, favorite book, right? I end up having one for all 4 of the areas, Josh. I can't help it. So when it pertains to meditation, I like Dr. Joe Dispenza's Becoming Supernatural. I was the guy that thought meditation was literally sitting down humming with your legs crossed and you had to shave your head and like you were waiting for something. Dr. Joe Dispenza is a guy that was a chiropractor that suffered a catastrophic accident on a bike, a pedal bike, was essentially supposed to be crippled, needed multiple spine surgeries, decided I'm not going to have any of the surgery. I'm going to try to heal myself. And with the power of his mind and his belief system, healed himself, hasn't had surgery, has went on the road speaking, and has a book called Becoming Supernatural that literally walks you through exactly, quote unquote, his version of meditation and how that connects to different parts of our body and what that really means. Right? When we get into kind of the health side of things, we'll call it fitness. I really like Dave Asprey's Game Changers, right? A really quick, simple read with 47 individual lessons around biohacking and how to really optimize energy levels, health, sexual function. It's a really quick segment by segment read that's really, really impactful. We dive into then the relationship side of things. If you haven't read The 5 Languages of Love, right, I think that's almost like a must read for communication between a husband and wife or boyfriend and girlfriend or whatever it is. I don't care if it's boyfriend and boyfriend or girlfriend and girlfriend, right? That's just how we communicate with other people and what that matters. And then in business, right now, Josh, I'm really big on copywriting, right? Just seeing how things work and how things go together. So anything by Ray Edwards, right? He's got a book that's copywriting that sells. I like his work because it's really step by step and just, I believe that the way that we show up, not only on videos, but on podcasts and any written communication is really a good snapshot into who we are. So I want to make sure that I'm most effectively communicating who I am in a way that paints a picture not only with authenticity to myself, but also they can eventually get to a tipping point where someone might feel comfortable investing with me. So that's kind of the 4 books that I would say all those would have some big benefit for you.
Fantastic. Ryan, favorite place you've ever been?
Costa Rica, right? A resort called Rhythmia in Costa Rica. So I am fully, this is going to be polarizing, so grab your shorts for a second. I'm a big believer in the healing modalities of psychedelics, right? I think the research that exists right now in clinical dosage in really safe settings to be able to use things like psilocybin to overcome, anything from chemical dependency to depression to smoking to there's endless amounts of research and case studies. I happen to be really fortunate and be connected to Johns Hopkins and Harvard for some assessments that I offer my clients. There's tons of research there. And it just so happens that a resort called Rhythmia in Costa Rica actually specializes in I'll call it pharmaceutical type setting of using ayahuasca, right? So a DMT-based modality that is a 7-day experience where it's farm to table food. The atmosphere is beautiful. It's a 5-star resort and accommodations. The ocean's right there. It's just a really beautiful and serene place. And it's something where I enjoy traveling, Josh, to go see things, but I really enjoy traveling to go do things. And so I've been there, if for any reason you're interested, right? July 14th to July 28th. I'm also going to put an asterisk next to the side, right? I have to come clean in this. I am now partners in Rhythmia, of all things, right? It was not intentional when I went down, but as life would have it, my skill sets and things that I know that I'm good at are some things that they could use some help with in the coaching world. So there's a little piece I play there. Remove that bias. I'm not pitching you anything. I don't make money if you show up at the resort, but it is just a life-changing place if you are open to exploring the vast, expansive nature of your mind.
Fantastic. And final question, Ryan, your most impactful mentor that you've ever had or most impactful mentor that you've recently engaged with?
Whew. Josh, that's probably the best question I've ever been asked before.
Right? All right.
Yeah, there's, I believe that people come into our lives for reasons and seasons for most of us. And I know that's a little bit of a cliche term, but if I look at, right, some of these tipping points, Vinny Fisher is way up on the list, right? Like he showed me things that I didn't know existed. He was a mentor in a capacity that I was willing to listen to him, right? He certainly would have been even greater. He made a life-changing impact in what I knew and what I knew to be possible. If I look at people that I've paid more, right? People that I would have had, I'll call it a mentorship or coaching agreement with. There's a guy named Dr. Mark Atkinson. That's a phenomenal, kind of holistic doctor, right? Out of the UK that has really done some impactful things with not only how I eat and how I think and the whole world of epigenetics and what goes on in our head and how that transmits into our body and into our environment. He's been the most recent one. If I take a step before him, it was a guy named Garrett J. White at Wake Up Warrior, right? Kind of a hard frame, punchy in the face type of guy with some really aggressive things, but it was part of what I needed at that moment of my life, right? And it served me until I didn't need that in my life anymore, and then I've moved on. So I also, Josh, don't believe that there has to ever be that one, like, this is my guy forever. Even with me as a coach, mentor, whatever I would be called, and I'm going to serve you in the greatest capacity for as long as I possibly can, fully realizing that there should be a time where you say, I know everything I possibly can know from you. I got to go find another one of you. Like, that's the best day in the world. Like, that's how this should be to me when you're showing up in your biggest capacity as your most authentic self. Someone's going to get all the downloads that I have, right? And so they'll have to go on and graduate to the next guy.
Right. Fantastic stuff. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, Ryan, for taking time with us today. I thoroughly enjoyed it, getting to know you on a totally deeper level. Thanks for just being authentic and just peeling back the onion, giving us your story. And we look forward to having you back again very, very soon.
Josh, I couldn't be more appreciative, my friend. Thank you so much. And if I'm on again, I'm coming up and we're going to do it face-to-face, right? I'll bring my crew too.
Yeah, fantastic. Ramey will love that. So guys, there you have it. Check out Ryan's information, ryanniddel.com. If you've enjoyed the interview, let us know. Leave us your questions, comments on our different social media platforms. And we look forward to seeing you again next time. Thanks for being with us on Accelerated Investor.
You've been listening to Josh Cantwell and the Accelerated Investor Podcast. Leave a comment on our iTunes channel and let us know what you want to learn next or who you'd like Josh to interview. While you're there, give us a 5-star rating and make sure to subscribe so you can be the first to hear new episodes. Follow Josh Cantwell and his companies, Strategic Real Estate Coach and Freeland Ventures, on all social media platforms now, and stay up to date on new training and investment opportunities. To start your journey toward the lifestyle you've always dreamed of, apply for coaching at joshcantwellcoaching.com.